I told you what was going to happen last week. If you didn't listen, that's on you.
This isn't talk, it's perspective.
It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Up, everybody. Happy and merry. Wonderful Sports Wednesday to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. And on this Wednesday morning, 27 hours away from the first round of the NCAA tournament, the world of sports is buzzing. And we are going to get to all the big stories, including, we're talking NCAA tournament all show long. And yours truly, me, your boy, Nick Kostos. I have changed my mind from Monday's show on one important bracket and betting decision as it concerns this year's NCAA tournament. I'm going to share it with you coming up in a little bit. May God have mercy on my soul. I will also attempt to answer this question. Is there an AFC playoff contender that needs a little love in 2026? I'm going to explain. And I will also be brave enough to ask this question. What the hell is the point of Team USA in the World Baseball Classic? We will get into last night's debacle for Team USA losing to Venezuela as we move along. Our bets for tonight will close the show. I got bets in both first four games because why the hell not? 310-840-4910 is the number. 310-840-4910. YouTube.com/@thekostos. You can tweet us at the Kostos, TheKostos, and at You Better You Bet. Now, just to say this, we have so much college basketball on today's show, it's going to make your head spin. All the college basketball talk, all the NCAA tournament talk that your little heart could ever desire. Joining us today on the show, ESPN college basketball analyst, the great Seth Greenberg, the great John Fanta from NBC Sports, and our good friend, ESPN betting analyst, Joe Fortenbaugh. Seth Greenberg, John Fanta, Joe Fortenbaugh, all talking NCAA tournament. Plus, my NCAA tournament thoughts. We'll hear from Tyler and Kenny. So we've got you covered. As Chris Brown once said, from wall to wall. Dun, 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 dun. So yeah, NCAA tournament talk all show long. So I want to give you that because I'm now going to give you this. Because we're officially starting the wonderful Sports Wednesday edition of You Better You Bet with yesterday's blockbuster trade in the National Football League. As the Denver Broncos laying in wait, hiding in the proverbial bushes. Man, and I was so mad at myself. So I'm off yesterday, right? And like last week I was out. I had a sick day. I had a sinus infection. I was terribly sick. Yesterday I was off because I'm working Saturday with Brad Evans doing Countdown to Tip-Off. So like I'm feeling good yesterday. And I see the trade. It's 11:13 a.m. Eastern. Because I looked at it, I was like, they're still on the air, right? Chris Mack's still on the air. And I immediately texted Bill and Tyler and said, did I give my Broncos A.J. Brown take on the air on Monday, or did I just say it to you guys on the phone before the show on Monday? And I was very upset when I was reminded that I said it off air. So just so everyone knows, not that it matters, but I did think something like this was possible. No one heard me say it on the air, but I'm not surprised that the Denver Broncos pulled this move because, up until yesterday when the Broncos make the trade for Jalen Waddle, and we will get into it in full, trading first, third, and fourth round picks, getting back Jalen Waddle and a fourth round pick, all the Broncos had done to this point in the offseason, besides for Sean Payton giving up play calling duties to new offensive coordinator Davis Webb, was re-sign their own players. Like here comes Sternad is going to be back. Some others on defense. J.K. Dobbins is re-signed. But they hadn't made literally zero signings outside of the players on their own roster. They had done nothing. And it seemed to me to be a little weird because, if Bo Nix doesn't injure his ankle at the end of the divisional round win against Buffalo, and I said this the Monday after Championship Sunday, I think the Broncos would have won the AFC Championship game. Would have beaten the New England Patriots. And look, probably not win the Super Bowl against the Seattle Seahawks, but I'll tell you what, is it possible that the game would have been less entertaining with Denver in it? I think not. Probably would have given Seattle a better game than the horrendous New England Patriots performance that we got in Super Bowl 60. So the Broncos did end up taking a big swing on a wide receiver, but not A.J. Brown. Instead, here's stud Dolphins receiver. And look, Waddle's not as good as A.J. Brown, but Jalen Waddle's still a real good player. Going to be 28 later this year. And it's an affordable contract for the Broncos compared to other contracts that we've seen big name receivers get. It's a great trade for the Denver Broncos. The 30th overall pick in the draft, third and a fourth round pick swap for Jalen Waddle as Miami continues its big time rebuild in earnest. We will get to the Miami Dolphins in a little bit. But we're going to start here, and we have news, by the way, on the Dolphins. This broke moments ago. ESPN's Adam Schefter tweeting, within the last few minutes of real time, that the Miami Dolphins are telling teams that star running back Devon Achane is not available in trade. To which I will just translate that right now for everyone. Hey, all the other teams in the NFL, if you want Devon Achane, up your offer. Why? It makes no sense for the Dolphins to hold on to him, but we'll get into that when we talk about the Miami Dolphins in a little bit. But first, from the Denver Broncos perspective, it's absolutely something that needed to happen. Because if you're Sean Payton and you're George Payton, not related, last name's not spelled the same, but pronounced the same, and you're the Denver Broncos coach and the general manager, you can't go backwards and you can't stay in neutral. Remember what I said the Monday after Championship Sunday here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. When Dan Campbell's words, biting kneecaps, not those words. It could be many words from Dan Campbell ringing in your ears at any given point in time. But Dan Campbell's words, after the Lions blew a 17-point halftime lead in the NFC Championship game a couple years ago in San Francisco against the Niners, were ringing in my ears. When I watched Sean Payton do his loser interview, and I'm not saying Sean Payton's a loser, but it's like the loser's interview that the coach does when they lose the championship game or the Super Bowl. With Frosty the Snowman, a.k.a. Evan Washburn, with the frosted tips, not blonde, but snowy, after the game on CBS. And you could just see it in Sean Payton's eyes. This is my interpretation, at least maybe you disagree. I thought it was pretty obvious that in that moment, I felt like Sean Payton, what's going through his head, we may never get back here. That may have been our best opportunity. And it sucks that we didn't have Bo Nix, and it sucks that it went the way it did, and it sucks that the high-leverage decision that he made in the first half with the 7-0 lead, not kicking a field goal, going for that 4th and 1, didn't go his way. And maybe the Broncos will never get back there. And maybe that's true. Maybe they won't. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. And that you shouldn't take that big-ass swing. And they took this swing here in a major way by trading for Jalen Waddle. So just in terms of the Broncos offense and what Jalen Waddle brings to the table, just imagine a Denver offense, right? And let's just call it, on the field in multiple 3 receiver sets. Cortland Sutton, who's an excellent big body receiver, obviously, and Waddle up. You don't have to be a football genius to know Waddle with the speed is a great compliment to Cortland Sutton. You got Troy Franklin out there. And then playing the role of Marvin Mims, except, good at football, is Jalen Waddle. This is why he's hot. This is why he's hot. This is why he's hot. Send Mims to the bench, and Jalen Waddle gets all those snaps. How do you not love that if you're a fan of the Denver Broncos? How do you not love that if you're someone that wants to bet the Denver Broncos next year? You absolutely have to love it. Because for Denver, you can get Jalen Waddle. You can swing some sort of big move on defense. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm just saying as a hypothetical, right? For Denver, it's all going to come down to if A, Bo Nix can take the next step, or B, you surround him with enough weapons in this system that you can make up for his shortcomings, right? And we talked about those shortcomings all year last year while they were winning a million games. It was obvious that Sean Payton didn't necessarily think that Bo Nix could handle a million things on his plate, and that's okay. They were the 1 seed in the AFC. And now you add like a legit speed threat to the offense in Jalen Waddle. Of course this helps Bo Nix. So adding Waddle increases the need for A to happen, which is Bo Nix wakes up and he's Patrick Mahomes, and certainly helps point B. The other reason why this is such an important move for the Denver Broncos. Now, I'm not going to include the Pittsburgh Steelers in this conversation. I'm not interested in the Steelers part of this here because Mike McCarthy's the coach, and if Aaron Rodgers is going to come back, I'm not interested in the Steelers. But the AFC last year, right? And we talked about this entering the playoffs. We talked about it over the course of the season as Kansas City was nosediving. That's a wacky year in the AFC where you could get a Broncos-Patriots AFC championship game where Buffalo loses in the divisional round and Baltimore doesn't make the playoffs and Kansas City doesn't make the playoffs. Who would have ever thought that would have been bad? CJ Stroud urinates down his leg a million times and plays one of the worst games we've ever seen a quarterback play in the divisional round, wasting that excellent defense that the Texans had last year. Like, think about the contenders in the AFC now. And seriously, right? How wacky that was last year. And I'm going to stop short of painting this as a fact. I'll toss it to you, the listener, you, the viewer. Do you think the AFC is going to be better or worse than it was last year? Like, I don't need to say it's better, right? Like, you know it's going to be better. The Bills made a coaching change and got DJ Moore. The Ravens made a coaching change, and they're not done yet. They got more to do, but got Trey Hendrickson and made the swing for Max Crosby, and we can get into that later in the show. The Chiefs, how could they be worse than they were last year? The Chargers, if their offensive linemen are healthy, and now Mike McDaniel's calling the plays. Like, the division's brutal. I think the Drake May's entering year 3. Like, the Bengals' defense is better now if Joe Burrow stays healthy. The Broncos couldn't stand pat. Now, I'm not here to tell you this is a move that absolutely pushes the Broncos over the top. And like, this is what gets the Broncos to the Super Bowl. And the reason why I'm going to say that, and you may say that I'm a hater, and I am willing to accept those slings and arrows if that's what you want to say. I don't think it's true, but if you want to say I'm a hater, fine. I don't really believe in Bo Nix as far as winning a championship. And I'm acknowledging that if he's healthy, and I said this the day after the game, if he's healthy for Championship Sunday, I think the Broncos go to the Super Bowl and probably get annihilated by the Seahawks for the second time in the Super Bowl in a little more than a decade. But I think they would have made it. But again, that's a wacky down year in the conference. Conference going to be better this year. Now, you might have to contend with Lamar Jackson in January. Hard to imagine you'll get a worse defensive effort than Buffalo put out if you got to play the Bills again. And remember number 15 in red? Chiefs have a lot of work to do. But I'll throw it to you again. If you're projecting right now the 7 playoff teams in the AFC, are you really going to have the Kansas City Chiefs on the outside looking in? Because I'm not. And look, I was wrong about that last year. Maybe I'll be wrong about it again. But this was absolutely a move that the Denver Broncos had to make. And again, I'm not saying the Broncos can't make it. Jalen Waddle definitely gives them more of an opportunity. If I were them, I would have made this trade. Absolutely. Not even think twice about it. From both perspectives, I would have made this deal. I'm just a little skeptical about the quarterback. I'm a little skeptical about Bo Nix. Last note on the Broncos part of this, and I'm going to tie in, and we'll do Miami on the other side, but I want to tie in the team that the Broncos played on Championship Sunday here. And that team is the New England Patriots. So New England goes to the Super Bowl and gets slammed, obviously, by the Seahawks. And Drake May's running for his life the entire postseason. And, now that we have the benefit of hindsight to look back on it in totality, the Patriots were probably, not a classic conference champion, right? Not as good as the normal conference champion. The Patriots have made two big offseason moves thus far. Big moves. Number one, the signing of Elijah Vera Tucker to help shore up that offensive line, which will kick Jared Wilson to center. And on paper, it makes a lot of sense, right? But can AVT stay healthy? Big thing, right? Huge, kind of maybe how this season might turn for New England could depend on AVT's health. And the signing of wide receiver Romeo Doubs away from the Green Bay Packers. Okay? Those are two good moves. Absolutely. And I would say that the Patriots are better now than they were at the end of last season because of those moves. But when you consider that the Broncos just traded for Jalen Waddle, the Bills have a new head coach and traded for DJ Moore, the Ravens have a new head coach and signed Trey Hendrickson, the Chargers have Mike McDaniel calling the plays. How could they not get better health on the offensive line than they had last year? The Chiefs can't be worse. The Bengals can't be worse. I don't think the Patriots can sit on their hands here. I still think New England's got to make a big move. And that big move, you've heard me say it before, and this is not going to come out of left field. This is not going to be you know what the Patriots should do? Try and trade for Max Crosby. No. They got to go get A.J. Brown. Go make it happen. If you got to wait till June 1st for Philadelphia financial purposes, fine. You do what you got to do. But you get A.J. Brown and you reunite him with Mike Vrabel and you give Drake May that weapon to go along with Dobbs and the other exciting young receivers that the New England Patriots have. It's a no-brainer. Because I'll tell you something right now. The two teams that played on Championship Sunday in the AFC, and New England won that game. If you're being honest, even with Drake May unquestionably being a better quarterback than Bo Nix, better bet to make the Super Bowl, Denver or New England? It's the Denver Broncos, hands down. And that is a problem for the New England Patriots. 310-840-4910, 310-840-4910. Do you like the Denver Broncos trade for Jalen Waddle? Do you think it gets them over the hump? Should the Patriots trade for A.J. Brown? YouTube.com/@thekostos, YouTube.com/@thekostos, @thekostos, TheKostos on Twitter, @YouBetterYouBet on Twitter. On the other side, if you're a Miami Dolphins fan, I know you got to be feeling a little down in the dumps this morning. Good news, though. I'm here to tell you why. I know the sun's always out in Miami, but I think the sun will be shining hot potentially on this team in 2027 and beyond. We'll talk the Dolphins part of this trade. Coming up next, You Better You Bet on a Wednesday, Westwood One Sports with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM.
And here comes the waddle.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Our friend Andrew Cattle on with the call last year on CBS. Also just need, you know what? Kenny, just bring it up for a few seconds here, please. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. I kind of want to rap Bun B's entire part, but we would all get fired. Oh, man. International Players Anthem. If I said I knew, baby, you've been riding solo trying to get down with the team because it's greener on the other side, if you know what I mean. I'll show you bleep you've never seen, 7 wonders of the world, and I'll make you the 8th if you want to be my girl. Does that make me cool or not cool that I know that? And I could probably rap the entire song. Anyway, internet, great song. Outkast and UGK. International Players Anthem. Great job by Kenny Henderson and Tyler Morales with the recommendation on that bet coming back from break. This segment sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Save on commercial auto insurance from Progressive. Get a fast quote at progressivecommercial.com. Do your part, 3 stacks. Do your part. Play your part, right? Play your part. The Miami Dolphins. Oh, man, it's such a good song. The Miami Dolphins deal Jalen Waddle away to the Denver Broncos. And I started the show saying that I think this trade makes sense for both teams. So obviously I like it for Miami. Spent the entirety of the first segment telling you why I like it for the Denver Broncos while acknowledging my questions about Bo Nix kind of still prevent me from putting the Broncos in that elite tier right now. But, I said this last week prior even to the Waddle trade. Denver is the team in the AFC West when you want to pair Denver and the Chargers. And right now I like the Chargers a little more. I like Mike McDaniel, love Justin Herbert. Can he get over his January issues if the offensive line's healthy? The Broncos at least have proof of concept in January, beating the Bills, and I think they would have beaten the Patriots with a healthy Bo Nix. So yes, for the Broncos, I like this. And for the Miami Dolphins, I love it. Sometimes I think, do any of you think this? This is going to come out of left field a little bit. Especially now that I'm a dad. I kind of feel like my mom and dad, and like my father passed away, like my mom is great. Like my parents are great. I think they're both kind of brain dead. Because I used to think things like I am going to make sure that my daughter, and if I have another, I'd like to have probably one more kid, that like my daughter or like second daughter or son will not think some of the stupid things that I thought when I was younger. For example, I graduate college, right? And I start working at Sirius XM, at the time Sirius Satellite Radio. And I get a credit card. I get an American Express Gold card, which is just like here. It's like some idiot 22-year-old with like an American Express card. And I have a vivid memory of like getting a monthly ticket for the Long Island Railroad, which is like a train into Manhattan, right? For people that are not in the New York area. And I remember like putting my credit card in and the ticket like coming down the chute or whatever and picking it up and being like, everything's free. Like credit cards are awesome. I don't have to pay for anything. This is great. The Miami Dolphins have basically been, for the last couple years, under GM Chris Greer, and we have to lump Mike McDaniel in here, even if he's not like the personnel guy, even if he's the head coach of the team, have been recklessly spending for years. Spending like a rich, jilted housewife who just find out that like that her husband, like big oil tycoon, big business maven with a huge bank account, maybe has been doing stuff with the secretary on the side that he shouldn't be doing. And now she's got access to them credit cards and that bank account, and she just went to Hermes, and she just went to Louis Vuitton, and she just went to Gucci, that Fendi, that Prada, that BCBG Burberry, Dolce & Gabbana. The problem with all of this, right? When you do that, when you do what the Dolphins did, when you do what I did when I was younger. Because here's the thing, right, in life, no matter what it is, if you spend recklessly, if you eat like a fat slob and you don't take care of yourself and you don't take care of your body, if you keep DMing People you shouldn't be DMing while you're in a relationship. Eventually, the bill comes due. And you gonna have to pay it. And that's the Miami Dolphins. The bills come due. And they are going to have to pay it in a big way. And where I've been taking amoxicillin twice a day for the past 6 days because of my sinus infection. Like, I got to tell you what, the Miami Dolphins, the medicine that they're going to have to take for the next 365 days, way, way more intense than that. And that's all they can do. We talk on the show, and I think this is a great life lesson as well. Right? This is what we do on the show. We don't just talk sports. We try and help you with your life. The great Mike Ehrmantraut, Walter White conversation from Breaking Bad. It's one of the best TV shows ever. And Mike tells Walter about the difference between half measures and full measures. There should be no half measures in life or in business. Keeping Jalen Waddle would have been a half measure for the Miami Dolphins. Hell, I think keeping Devon Achane's a half measure for the Miami Dolphins. And again, we told you the Adam Schefter report at the start of the show, right? You bet on this Wednesday. Westwood One Sports, Nick Kostos here with you. That the Dolphins are telling teams they're not interested in trading Devon Achane, to which I say, okay. I'll translate that. That's the Miami Dolphins saying, make a better offer and we'll trade you Devon Achane. Why would they keep him? What sense does it make to keep Devon Achane when you've just traded Jalen Waddle? This is the only move that the Miami Dolphins could have made. And now, after trading Waddle to Denver, this sounds impossible. The Dolphins now, and Tua is obviously a huge part of this, over $175 million in dead cap money this season. Insane. Now, the Dolphins were going to be bad with Jalen Waddle this year. Like, there's no way that go to Our Lads. Our Lads gets a lot of run on the show. Go to Our Lads, which is the NFL depth chart website that everybody uses. Look at this roster. How many good players do the Miami Dolphins have? They are going to be atrocious this season. They have no chance of being good. Cue up Vince McMahon's old theme song, because they've got no chance. No chance in hell. They're brutal. And they should be. Because after the Miami Dolphins and if you're a Dolphins fan, there's no way around this. You could kick the can down the road and pay the bill next year. Or you can do what reasonable adults do, and you take your medicine now. This is right what the Miami Dolphins did. They are right to do this, to take their medicine this year in 2026 and be bad, which, by the way, entering 2027, which, listen to all the draft nicks, and they'll tell you this is a tremendous draft class in 2027 for the Miami Dolphins and for any other team in the NFL. They were going to be bad anyway, so supercharge the badness and give yourself more bites at the apple. Trading Jalen Waddle absolutely had to happen. And now, the Miami Dolphins, by virtue of how the finances of all of this work out, this is basically going to be a 1 year where this happens for Miami, where they are totally crippled financially. But next offseason, they're going to have some flexibility and a ton of salary cap room. There's no way around this. So if you're a Dolphins fan and you're pissed today, why do we trade? What's the point of all of this? The point is to give yourself flexibility and to give yourself the chance to contend down the road. And this actually helps that happen. So yeah, you're going to suck this year. You're going to be really bad. You were going to be bad anyway, so you might as well be even worse and give yourself a better chance. So get ready for that. There was no other outcome. The bill came due. You have to pay it. The $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase once said, everybody's got a price and everybody's got to pay. And that includes the Miami Dolphins. Now, there is one potential point of consternation that Dolphins fans could have as a result of this deal. And that point is, what was the point of signing Malik Willis at quarterback If you were going to like cut his legs out from under him, it's like your kid wants a car, right? You get your kid a car at 16, 17, 18 years old, and right before they drive it for the first time, you like take the tires off. Like, what's the point of this? Like, you're giving Malik Willis much less of a chance of success when you trade Jalen Waddle. Two things here I would respond to that with. Number one, you can't sell to even if it's obvious that the Dolphins are tanking or resetting, whatever word you want to use, they're going to be bad this year, and their goal is their intent to be bad, right? You can't sell Quinn Ewers to the fan base. Like, let's say it was like, we're going to roll with Quinn Ewers. You can't sell that. You can't. You can't sell it. You can sell Malik Willis. Malik Willis is hope. Malik Willis is, hey, we've got this quarterback. We don't know if he's great. Maybe he's bad, but maybe he's awesome. Maybe we just mined a diamond in the rough. And maybe he can keep us respectable. Maybe, right? You can at least sell Malik Willis. You can sell him. The other thing would be, this is going to go one of two ways. I don't think there's, and if you disagree, 310-840-4910, youtube.com/@thekostos, @thekostos on Twitter. I don't think there's any in between. I think this goes one of two ways. And both are good for Miami. Number one, Malik Willis is not very good. And because he's not very good, and because it's not like he has like the Bo Nix's caliber of talent around him, the Dolphins are going to be horrendous. And maybe you end up with Arch Manning or Dante Moore or Julian Sayin, but you go and get one of those quarterbacks if Malik Willis is terrible. The other option, the other way this goes, and I said this after the Dolphins signed him. What if, and I really, really think about this, if the Miami Dolphins this year, with their schedule is going to be insane with all the cross matchups and divisions, if they go 6-11 this year, it probably means Malik Willis is your guy. It probably means that. Going 6-11 with this roster would be like the greatest miracle since the United States against Russia in 1980. Either way, I think the Dolphins win. So that's my counter to everybody. It's like, well, why'd they sign Malik Willis? That's why. A, you can sell him to the fan base. Even if it's false hope, it is hope. And it might not be false hope. And number two, he's either going to be good enough that you know he's the guy or bad enough that you end up with Arch Manning. I really like it for the Miami Dolphins. And just on Devon Achane. Okay. Dolphins say they're not going to trade him. BS. I think they'll trade him. Maybe they won't. I think they should. And if they do, the team that should go get him, I'm getting excited just thinking about this. Do you know what I'm going to say? Who do you think the team should be that tries to trade for Devon Achane? How about a Super Bowl contender that lost its starting running back in free agency? How about a Super Bowl contender that had its presumptive starting running back tear his ACL 2 months ago in January? How about a Super Bowl contender that hasn't made that big move yet to keep up with the Joneses in its own division? That team, the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, Seattle Seahawks. I have the chills right now. Sometimes I even amaze myself. 310-840-4910. We're going to talk during the break, and we're going to try and figure out, myself, Bill, Tyler, and the crew. We're either going to talk about a couple mock drafts that came out yesterday from prominent mock drafters and what I found super interesting there, or we're going to do the World Baseball Classic. I'm not 100% sure yet, so we'll figure that out during the break. We will get to both topics over the course of the show. Tons of college basketball on the way. 3 great guests. Keep it locked right here You Better You Bet on a Wednesday, Westwood One Sports, with your guy, Nick Kostos.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Well, the best in baseball after beating Team USA last night in the World Baseball Classic Final 3-2. Joe Davis with the call on Fox. We will break that game down in just a second, and I will be brave enough to ask the question, what's the point of all of this? I'm not talking about life. That's more for like your, a freshman year of college philosophy class. What's the point of the United States in the World Baseball Classic? We'll talk about that in a second, but we need to tell you about our show sponsor, BetMGM, because coming up this week, the Cavender twins are facing off in the Court of Legends game, and you can enter BetMGM's Pick a Twin to Win free-to-play game for the chance to win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Sounds pretty awesome. All you have to do, opt in to the Pick a Twin to Win free-play game. Select which Cavender twin you think will win, and here's what I want. I want Tyler and Kenny, by the end of the show, to both come up with a handicap of why they like one twin versus the other. And we are going to choose the twin that we prefer of the Cavender twins. Select which Cavender twin you think will win the Court of Legends one-on-one basketball game hosted at the Bank at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. If the twin you select wins the game, you'll win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Download the BetMGM app. Visit BetMGM.com so you can make it legendary. Okay. A couple things off of last night with Venezuela beating the United States. Eugenio Suarez with the eventual game-winning double in the top of the ninth after Bryce Harper with an electric moment, if we're honest, right? USA down 2-0, bottom 8. Bryce Harper with a mammoth 2-run shot to tie the game. Maybe Team USA is going to win. But here's Garrett Whitlock. Jason's brother. Serving it up to Eugenio Suarez with a double to put Venezuela up 3-2. And the United States, much like, and I'll say it. The United States, watching Team USA last night, and I know that I can get a little like New York centric. I've lived here my whole life. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from. And we all watch the baseball playoffs, right? We've all seen this from the Yankees. It felt like watching the Yankees offense, even against the Dominican Republic when they won 2-1 in the semifinal. Here's us like the greatest offense ever built with all these absolute monsters in the lineup, and they can't do jack. They can't do anything. What an exercise in frustration. And a nice little preview for me for 6 months from now, where the Yankees will inevitably lose in some round of the American League postseason in similar fashion, with Aaron Judge probably 0 for 4ing again in a big spot like he did last night. Couple points. Number one, credit to Venezuela. I'm not going to be a hater. Good for them. Like, this show, and I think this of sports people can do whatever the hell they want on their shows. I think that sports is the toy department of life. And you and I come here and watch and love sports because it's like, it's fun. So we're not going to talk politics here. But look, we're not ostriches. My head's not in the sand. I'm aware of what's happened in like the country of Venezuela, especially as it regards the United States. Not a commentary one way or another on anything, just saying these are things that have happened. And I think if you have even like an ounce of empathy, like in your body, not insinuating like I was rooting for USA to win the game. I didn't want Venezuela to win. But I think you can be happy for the Venezuelan people because this clearly mattered to them way more than it did to us. Way more than it did to us. In the same way, it feels like the World Baseball Classic matters more to the Dominican Republic. It matters more to Puerto Rico. It matters more to Japan. It matters more to Korea. Maybe matters more to like anybody than it does to us. So I give them a ton of credit. The second thing I'll say is, I don't know what the point of all of this is. And the reason why, think about what I said when I'm detailing the end of the game, right? The Eugenio Suarez double. Garrett Whitlock served it up, not Mason Miller, who the best reliever on the team, closer for the San Diego Padres. Manager, it's just like, this is all so dumb. Mark DeRosa, the manager of the United States, World Baseball Classic baseball team, right, was asked, after the game, why wasn't Mason Miller in the game in this high leverage spot? Take a listen to what Mark DeRosa said after the game.
Mark, you said before the game that Mason would be available if you needed him, and since there wasn't going to be a safe situation once you got to the ninth, I was curious what went into not using him there.
Honoring the Padres. Had we taken the lead, he was coming in, but I wasn't going to bring him into a tie game.
there wasn't going to be a safe situation at that point.
I wanted to honor the fact that there was a situation there where if it was tied, we were going to use Whitlock. We had talked to the Red Sox about that, and if we had the lead, we were going to use Mason.
What's the point of this? Why do people care in this country about the World Baseball Classic if this is what it's going to be? Like, could you imagine? Like, remember the Golden Dagger a couple of years ago? Steph Curry's insane 3 over Victor Wembanyama to win the gold medal for the United States. What if the Warriors were like, you know what? We don't want Steph in at the end, at the fourth quarter, or the end of a tight game because we need him fresh for the regular season. Or if the Winnipeg Jets were like, Connor Hellebuck, he can only play if the United States have the lead. If the game's tied or they're behind, we don't want Connor Hellebuck in the game. We want to save Connor Hellebuck for the regular season and maybe the playoffs. Or if the New Jersey Devils said, Jack Hughes can't play in overtime, we can't risk it, and you never get the gold medal winning goal. How insane is this? What's the point of it? Where the United States is going to puff out its chest, and like, they should do this. This is not a criticism of the country at all. This is just, like, if this is going to be that this is the best team ever assembled, and everyone's into national pride, and God bless, I have national pride, right? And Tarek Skubal wants to keep going, and Aaron Judge is Captain America. And it all comes down to the end, and the San Diego Padres are dictating whether or not they win or not. What's the point? And I don't even mean this as a criticism of the Padres. Like, you get it from the Padres' perspective, right? Like, they're trying to win. Mason Miller's a huge part of that. But if this is what it's going to be, and like the teams in Major League Baseball are going to dictate to the Americans, to the American management, like who can play and who can't, then why am I supposed to care as an American sports fan? Why am I? And like, the World Baseball Classic's awesome. Like, it's great. Like, I'm not criticizing the event. I wish that they cared. I wish that they were going. I wish we saw Mason Miller. It would have been awesome. But no. How can you argue, and this is not like me and you as fans, could you imagine if Venezuela was like, well, you know what? Like, Eugenio Suarez can't play in the 9th inning. We got to pull him. Can't play. Can't do it. Could you imagine if the Dominican Republic did that? It would never, ever happen. And that's why now, like, great, I'm into the World Baseball Classic. I'll definitely keep watching it. I'm never going to not watch it. I love sports. Just like, really? Is this what it is? And if that's the case, why am I supposed to care as much as I did? Hour 1 done, hour 2 for you coming up on the other side. We're talking NCAA tournament. And the thing I think I'm most wrong about that I said on Monday. Coming up next, Westwood One Sports, Nick Kostos and you. You better, you bet.
The biggest names in the business are on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening as you do every day to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Brought to you by BetMGM.
The wonderful Sports Wednesday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our amazing crew, and you here on Westwood One Sports. Man, I love that first hour of the show. Why are we supposed to care as Americans about the World Baseball Classic if the San Diego Padres are dictating whether or not we win or lose? Why are we supposed to care? Why should I give such a damn next time if this is what it's going to be? Figure it out. Or don't. And then we can dispense with all the pomp and circumstance next time around for what's a great event, the World Baseball Classic. But hey, could you imagine like the Dominican Republic or like Venezuela making its decisions based on what the major leagues say? Come on. Really? Stop it. Stop it. And led the show with the Jalen Waddle trade from the Miami Dolphins to the Denver Broncos. Why I like it for Denver. Still skeptical of Denver because, Bo Nix is their quarterback. But I think it's a worthy swing for the Broncos to take. And you got to love it if you're a Miami Dolphins fan. You take your medicine for 1 year, and next year, way more salary cap space, and you can actually start building this out and trying to get a contender rolling in South Beach with new GM, John Eric Sullivan, and new head coach, Jeff Hafley. 3 tremendous guests still to come, all on the NCAA tournament. Seth Greenberg from ESPN, 20 minutes from now. John Fanta from NBC Sports, 60 minutes from now. And Joe Fortenbaugh, also in the final hour of the show, ESPN sports betting analyst. And let's start talking NCAA tournament. Right now, we are 26 hours away. A little more than 26 hours and 13 minutes away. 12:50. What's the tip? The first tip time? Ohio State TCU. 12:15 Eastern tomorrow. Dun 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 dun. Oh man. To you, I'll lead the show with it tomorrow, but just man, try and convince me that this isn't the best. The NCAA tournament, round number 1. Honestly, it's enough to bring a grown man, a grown sports fan, to tears thinking about it. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, baby. So I'm thinking about it last night, as one does. You know, my wife is watching Virgin River on Netflix. Like an actual like terrible show, but I guess it's whatever. I watch some bad shows also. And so she's watching Virgin River. I got the baseball game on mute, and I'm thinking about the NCAA tournament in bed, as one does when you're laying in bed next to your wife, thinking about the NCAA tournament. And I'm not even saying that ironically. I think that is what a lot of men think about this time of year when they're laying in bed next to their significant other. And what I'm thinking about is, you know, my initial thoughts on the tournament on Sunday night after Selection Sunday, and then what we talked about, both me in a solo fashion like I am right now, or when we brought Tyler and Kenny on the show on Monday, as to how I see the bracket playing out. And I'm kind of, you know, relitigating it in my head because, you know, I don't have to make a decision on Monday. I don't have to make decisions right now. I have to make my decisions in the next 26 hours. So what do I feel differently about from Monday to right now? And when I really, really considered that, a couple things came to mind. The first is in the South region. And before I talk about what the difference is, I want to give you, our listeners and viewers, the current top 4 at the odds market at BetMGM to win the national championship. And this is going to be like the old Sesame Street game. Which of these things is not like the other? I don't know if that's the tune that it carried. That's how I remember it. Duke is your favorite, plus 325. I actually think Arizona should be the favorite, which is not, they're basically the same price. Just saying, like, I think given Duke's got some injury stuff going on, and I said like 3 or 4, to the point that the last time I said it on Monday, I'm like, I think I'm saying this word too much. Unimpeachable was the word I kept saying on Monday. That's a great political tie-in there. That Arizona is the most unimpeachable 1 seed, which doesn't mean that Duke stinks. It just means Duke's got injury concerns. Duke plus 325. Arizona plus 350. Michigan plus 375. So that's the 1 seed in the East, the 1 seed in the West, and the 1 seed in the Midwest. And then Florida is next up. The reigning defending national champion Florida Gators, the 1 seed in the South region, at 7-1. And at other domestic sports books, we're only going to tell you what BetMGM has because they sponsor us, and that's who we love. We love BetMGM. The price is even longer for the Florida Gators. So the betting opinion that has been developed over the last few days since Selection Sunday is that there is a separate, and whether you listening or viewing, watching the show, whether you bet or not, I think this is valuable information and valuable context because there is a bleep ton of money being bet into these markets. It doesn't have to be right, but it tells you what really smart people are thinking, right? And what they are thinking and what they are saying, not with their words, but with their money, is that there is a difference between the top 3 teams and the Florida Gators. That Duke, whatever order you want to put them in. And honestly, I would have Duke 3 of 3 because of the injury concerns. That's me, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Duke, Arizona, Michigan. Draw a line, Florida Gators. And do you have another team that you want to put in that grouping with Florida? And maybe you disagree. And maybe you think Florida's the best or Florida should be up there, in which case you should bet Florida to win the national championship because the price is way different. Do you think Florida's as good? 310-840-4910. Chime in on YouTube. YouTube.com/@thekostos. Tweet me at the Kostos, TheKostos. After what we saw in the SEC tournament, when Florida got annihilated by Vanderbilt in the semifinal, 91-74, when Vandy's guard play absolutely outshined Florida's backcourt, right? I think it really laid eyes on the fact and shone light on the fact. Shined. I have a college degree. Shined, I think, is appropriate. Like Sean Figgins. Shined light on the fact that Florida's backcourt is not nearly as good as it was last year when the Gators won the national championship. That is not an opinion. What I am saying is fact. That doesn't mean Florida can't or won't win the national championship. But I think what it means is, as we sit down with our brackets and we want to make bets and we conceptualize how this NCAA tournament is going to go, if you're trying to answer the question, which 1 seed gets bounced first? Of course it can be Arizona. Of course. Of course it can be Michigan. Of course it can be Duke. Crazy things happen every year in the NCAA tournament. But what's the most likely outcome there? The most likely 1 seed to get bounced early. It has to be Florida, right? Even if we're building in percent chances for the other 3 to get bounced first. It's not 100%, but which is the most likely? Both the betting market and kind of our own, or my own at least, intuitive reasoning as a gigantic college basketball fan, someone who watches a ton of games, loves talking and thinking about the sport, leads you to the Florida Gators. So if that's true, let's consider the teams in this region and teams that could potentially knock off Florida. And Dan Turner, if we could get the bracket put up, that would be great. The South region here for people that are watching the show to follow along. So Vanderbilt is the 5 in this region, right? And they're in the pod, if we're going to call it. I know pods are generally just groups of 4 teams, but let's just group it into the top half and the bottom half of the bracket. Vandy's on the top half with Florida as the 5. Nebraska's the 4. I'm not into Nebraska at all. So even if Nebraska gets past Troy, and I'll have a bet on Troy in that game, I like Vandy to beat Nebraska. So let's say we get Florida-Vandy in the Sweet 16. Would it really, really surprise anybody if Vandy beat them again? I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but would it really shock you if that happened? So there's a potential upset alert for the Florida Gators, and it's not like we're conjuring something out of thin air. They literally lost to Vanderbilt last week. Not 2 months ago, last week, they lost to Vandy and got slammed by Vandy. And then there's the bottom half of the bracket. And here's what I think I may have gotten wrong. So I said on Monday, I think Houston's going to the Final Four. And I don't really see a scenario where we don't get Houston and Illinois in the Sweet 16 to go to the regional final, to play likely either Florida or Vanderbilt, right? North Carolina is the 6. North Carolina is without its best player, Caleb Wilson. North Carolina could lose to VCU. That could happen, right? North Carolina, I think, is a pretty weak 6 seed. St. Mary's and A&M, I would be stunned if either of those two teams beat Houston. So I think we are very likely to get Illinois and Houston. And I feel like after talking to a bunch of really smart people. And I will give a tip of the cap to my old co-host on You Better You Bet, Ken Barkley. Not that like he thinks Illinois is guaranteed to beat Houston or win the region, but like I respect Ken. I respect many people in the college basketball space. And I think upon further review and reading and listening and watching, because I love this stuff, right? And not just because I love it and I love to watch it, I love to talk about it, like I like to bet and I love filling out brackets, right? I think I may have been too dismissive of Illinois and Illinois' potential. Now, I'm never going to be the type of guy that drags the show down with statistics because you, the listener and viewer, probably don't care. You're unaware of it. It doesn't matter. But what I'll just say is this. You'll hear Ken Pomeroy is the guy's name, who's like the godfather of college basketball analytics. Ken Pom will get referenced a lot. I'll just say Ken Pom has Illinois as the 7th best team in the country. Illinois is a 3 seed, but the implication being Illinois is in between like 9 and 12, right? So Illinois, maybe like a little better than its seeding indicates. So you have that right off the jump. You have Illinois, and they are boom bust, right? Mr. Boombastic. Illinois is a boom bust team where they could, like, if Illinois played Houston and scored, and I know Houston's defense is good, I understand. If Illinois scored 85 points in that game, would anyone really be shocked? In the same way, by the way, that it wouldn't be shocking if Houston, if they just couldn't make any shots from 3 the entire game. And we've seen that happen with Illinois over the course of the season. How about this, as far as Illinois is concerned? So Illinois has a bunch of losses this year. A couple of them are like worthy losses, right? Where they kind of get their asses handed to them, right? They lose by 15 to UConn. They lose by 14 to Michigan. No shame in that, right? A 4-point loss to Alabama. Overtime losses to Michigan State, 2 to Wisconsin, including in the Big Ten tournament, and to UCLA. What if those games go differently? What seed is Illinois? This doesn't mean that Illinois is going to the Final Four or going to win the national championship. But the thing that I'm saying is that I feel like upon further review, I may have dismissed the Illini. And when you lay bare these facts, these are facts that I'm giving to you, kind of makes me feel like Illinois is way more live against Houston than I've given them credit for. And given the star power that Illinois had, Keaton Wagler's an absolute stud. Like we talked about Stojakovic last March when he was playing for Cal. You know, Peja's son. He actually is. Okay? Let's just say, right? I'm creating a scenario. Let's say that Illinois beats Houston. And let's say that Florida gets by Vanderbilt. Illinois versus Florida. You telling me Illinois can't win that game? They absolutely can. They absolutely can. And if you're betting, you're filling out a bracket, ask yourself this question. And this is more of a bracket question, right? Can be a betting question, but especially for brackets, right? And I think if I'm, constructing a pie chart of our audience, I'm guessing that more of the pie is constructed by brackets as opposed to betting, even though I'm sure a lot of the audience bets, right? Who do you think the majority of people in your pool are going to take to go to the Final Four out of the South region? Probably Florida, right? And if not Florida, then Houston. It's a potential pivot point. I'm not guaranteeing Illinois gets there. What I am saying, I think that I made a mistake on Monday by dismissing the Illini. And Illinois' chances to either get to the Elite Eight or even get to the Final Four. 310-840-4910, youtube.com/@the Kostos. Man, we got great guests talking college hoops on today's show. John Fanta, next hour. Joe Fortenbaugh, next hour. But coming up next, as in 5 minutes from now, Seth Greenberg from ESPN, breaking down the NCAA tournament here on Westwood One Sports. Don't go anywhere.
is in front.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Our guy, Brian Anderson. Can we get Brian Anderson like a lozenge, please? Poor BA. Powering through. Great performance by him last night. Clearly under the weather. Along with, if you're going to have a game where you're under the weather and you're calling it, good to have Charles Barkley and Dick Vitale on the call. God bless them. This segment here on You Better You Bet, True TV, courtesy of the call. This segment sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Save on commercial auto insurance from Progressive. Get a fast quote at progressivecommercial.com. So Texas beats Xavier last night, 68-66. Had a couple bucks on Texas. Isn't that funny that I win bets when I'm not on the show? How about that Rockets bet on Monday night? Oh, Texas beats NC State, excuse me. I have Xavier in my head because Sean Miller was a Xavier coach last year when they were in the first four. My bad. Texas beats NC State last night. Had last year's game on the brain. So Texas wins, and that sets up a first-round date with BYU and A.J. DeBonsa. Now, I will be honest with everybody. I would love to have BYU going very far in my bracket. I would love to bet BYU to make a run in this tournament. And just as sports fans, think about how much fun, unless you're like a Gonzaga fan or like a Purdue fan, which would imply that BYU beats your team, how much fun it would be to have A.J. DeBonsa, who we think is like maybe 51% right now to be the number one pick in the NBA draft over Kansas's Darren Peterson, right? How much fun it would be if DeBonsa put on a show over the next couple weeks, right? Scores 35, scores 38, and like carries BYU like deep in the tournament. How much fun that would be. But I think about the words of our friend Brad Evans, who joined us a couple weeks ago on the show, and I know like he's been on a bunch recently as well, even on shows that I haven't been on, right? The words of Brad Evans ringing in my ears when I asked him recently about BYU's chances in the tournament, even though DeBonsa's great, but without Richie Saunders and with a bad defense, can BYU make a run? And what Brad said was, and we didn't even know who the matchup was going to be yet, right? This is before the Big 12 conference tournament. He thinks that BYU is going to be a one and done in the NCAA tournament. And I think that Brad might be right. So BYU is a 2.5-point favorite against Texas in the first round. And I think Texas is going to beat them. And it gives me no pleasure to say that. I would love for BYU to make a run. I don't think it's going to happen. I think their defense probably not good enough to get them over the hump. And, Sean Miller's a really good coach, and you come up with a plan to try and like hold down DeBonsa, or maybe the plan is let DeBonsa score 40 and no one else scores. I don't know. I'm not in them basketball weeds grinding the film. I think Texas will have something for A.J. DeBonsa. So I am going to like the Texas Longhorns against BYU. Okay. So as it stands right now, Seth Greenberg is on First Take, and he may be sticking around there for a while. We're going to try and figure this out with Seth, but if not, all good. I will talk for a few minutes here about Duke. You better you bet on this Wednesday. Westwood One Sports, Nick Kostos and you, 310-840-4910, youtube.com/@thekostos. So started this hour talking about that I think Florida is the most likely one seed to get bounced early. And I absolutely feel that way. And the betting market feels that way as well, with Florida being plus 700 at BetMGM, longer at other domestic sports books. The other 3-1 seeds are all grouped very close together: Duke, Arizona, and Michigan. We'll talk about the Duke Blue Devils here. Oh, and so Kenny, and he has like a bunch of time for us here, or is this like 4 or 5 minutes? Just like, let me know, please, guys, exactly what's happening here. And we can bring Seth on, and if not, we'll talk about the Duke Blue Devils. Okay, why don't we do this? If Seth only has a few minutes and we're in the commercial break here, just tell Seth to do what he needs to do on television, and we can catch up with him another time in lieu of like a 5-minute hit with Seth Greenberg. So please thanks Seth, and we'll go from there. So listen, this is what happens sometimes. Live television and live radio here, and producing on the fly. So Duke is the team that I have really liked for much of the season to potentially win the national championship in college basketball. And if Duke were fully healthy, I think that I would really like the Duke Blue Devils here to win the title. And I've been consistent on that for a couple months, right? love Cam Boozer, and I love Isaiah Evans. And it's weird to me how people kind of think John Shire is this tournament choke artist, and I get it. Last year was really bad against Houston. Also, he's not the guy on the court that can't make any shots. I don't know how much I want to blame John Shire for that, for losing to Houston last year. I think Shire's an awesome coach, and you like Caleb Foster, and you like Gungba, and Duke's awesome. And Duke's losses are blowing an 18-point lead against Texas Tech when Texas Tech had JT Toppin. No shame in that. Also, we're up by 18 on the Red Raiders. And then losing to North Carolina in a game where they trailed by 0 seconds. Carolina literally makes a three as time expires. Those are Duke's only 2 losses this season. So I kind of felt like Duke, the best team in the country. But as we enter this tournament right now, and this is not to say that Duke can't win, but again, look, we're trying to project this out before it starts. Duke has actual legitimate injury concerns. Caleb Foster is probably not going to play. He's on a scooter. I'm going to repeat that. Caleb Foster is on a scooter, which is cool if you're in 7th grade. I don't know if it works when you're the starting point guard of the team that's favored to win the national championship. And the tournament starts, tomorrow. And he probably is not returning for the entire tournament. Even if Duke makes it to the national championship game, it feels like Caleb Foster's not going to play. Now, big man Patrick Gungba seems to be a little bit more optimistic. He has not been ruled out for the whole tournament. Maybe he's back for Duke's second round game against either Ohio State or TCU. Maybe he's back for the Sweet 16. It's a little more optimistic on Gungba. But still, he's not 100% healthy. Doesn't feel great, right? We can acknowledge that, right? This is not what you want if you're a Duke fan. This is not what you want if you're someone that wanted to bet on Duke to win the NCAA tournament. To have two of your 5 players hurt entering the big dance. So I think what we should consider, could Duke get bounced early? Is it possible that Duke's injury concerns and being down, even if we think Cam Boozer's tremendous, and he is, and Isaiah Evans tremendous, and he is, and Shire's tremendous, and he is, even if that's true, could they potentially be upset a little early in the tournament? Ohio State, I think, has the upside to potentially do it, and I know a lot of people like TCU in that first round game. I like Ohio State. I talked about that on Monday, liking the Buckeyes over TCU. Ohio State definitely has the offensive firepower to get nuclear for a game and beat Duke. Then we go to the Sweet 16, and let's say Duke makes it, right? Which to be fair, even if we're saying they could be on upset alert because of the injuries, they are still the favorite to win the title. So I'm not saying Duke sucks here. That's not the point of this. Just that we have to handicap with the situation we have with a couple injuries. Now, is it possible that it's Northern Iowa or Cal Baptist that Duke would play in the Sweet 16? Yes. All things are possible. It is possible. But it's exceptionally unlikely. What's way more likely is that the second round in the top half of the bracket in the East will feature a round of 32 game, and this makes your mouth water, and we said that on Monday, with Bill Self in Kansas, multiple-time national championship coach, against multiple championship-winning head coach Rick Pitino and St. John's. Now, I said this on Monday, and I'm going to stick with it. I am really going to like St. John's if that's the matchup. St. John's to beat Kansas. While acknowledging Kansas could win, Darren Peterson could go nuclear. He's apparently going to be playing in these games. We think he's going to play in the games. Kansas, to me, is way too up and down. They've been that way all season. And I have way more confidence in St. John's floor, at least, even if the ceiling might be higher with Kansas. St. John's floor in a one-game scenario to be able to beat Kansas and advance to the Sweet 16. If Duke's not fully healthy in the Sweet 16, here's Rick Pitino with a week to prepare. Here's Zuby Ejiofor. Here's St. John's. Whoever since Darling got inserted into the starting lineup following the miserable 42-point effort in the loss in Stores against UConn, ever since that, St. John's backcourt has been better. And St. John's hasn't lost a game. That's pretty interesting, right? St. John's against Duke, if that's the matchup. Then we can go to the bottom of the bracket, right? And again, this is if Duke is not fully healthy. If Duke's healthy, Gungba comes back, even if they just get Gungba back, I think Duke beats every team in this region. But what if he doesn't come back? All right. What if it's Michigan State? Here's Izzo in March. I don't like Michigan State a lot this year, but you have to acknowledge that their upside is to go to worse Michigan State teams have made runs than this Michigan State team. And then there's UConn. That's the 2. And yes, UConn lost to Marquette at the end of the regular season. And yes, UConn got whipped by St. John's in the Big East title game. Like, UConn, UCLA over UConn will be a popular second-round upset. UConn will be favored in that game. And I like, if it's UConn, Michigan State, I like Connecticut in that matchup, if that's the matchup. Why can't UConn beat a less than 100% Duke team in the Elite Eight? None of this is to say that Duke's going to get bounced early, right? But the point of this is, when you look at the other side of the bracket, right? The West and the Midwest. You bet on this Wednesday. Nick Kostos here with you. And you see Arizona as the one in the West. Is Purdue really, and assuming health, is Purdue beating Arizona? I say no way. And I love Purdue. I think Purdue's upside is to get to the Elite Eight and maybe even give Arizona a game. But is Purdue going to beat Arizona? I think the answer to that question is unequivocally no. It's just no. I don't think BYU's making it out of the first round. Ergo, I don't think BYU could beat Arizona. Could Gonzaga beat Arizona? If Gonzaga gets Huff back, maybe you want to make the case that they could. I'll take Arizona in that game against Gonzaga. That would be a little scary for Arizona, and I do like the Zags, but I'll take Arizona. Arkansas has Darius Acuff, and his ceiling is to go for 40 points in a game. So, of course, in a one-game scenario, Arkansas can beat Arizona. Arizona's way better than Arkansas. I don't see Arizona getting tripped up. They could. I just think it's less likely, right, for the reasons I've laid out than Duke, most notably health. And then in the Midwest, with Michigan is the one. Even with Michigan closing the Big Ten tournament with, the really close win against Wisconsin with the Landenborg 3 and getting blown out, not blown out, but losing pretty comfortably to Purdue in the Big Ten title game. Even with that, Michigan's the best team in this region, right? Okay. Iowa State's a really good too. I'm saying right now, if it's Michigan, Iowa State in the regional final, I am 100% taking Michigan. 100%. And I like Iowa State, but I'm going to take the Michigan Wolverines. I think Kentucky's got some serious upside here. I do. But they've been so inconsistent all year, it's tough to imagine that they're going to put it all together. Virginia is a good 3 seed. They are. And if it's not going to be Michigan, maybe Virginia's the team you would look at in this region to make the Final Four. I don't think Virginia's in Michigan's class. Tennessee is the 6, and I like Tennessee, and I think you can easily say that Tennessee is the best of all 4 6 seeds, with North Carolina without Caleb Wilson, Louisville with Michael Brown, his health being an unknown, and BYU. Tennessee's the best 6, but I don't think Tennessee's ever beating Michigan. Also, Rick Barnes is Tennessee's coach. Alabama's second best player just got arrested for having 15, for being Sir Smoke-a-Lot, basically, from Half-Baked. The biggest marijuana dealer in Tuscaloosa. So we don't think he's playing in the NCAA tournament. That hurts the Tide. Texas Tech is without its best player, JT Toppin, and Christian Anderson. One of their other best players is also nursing an injury right now. They're on upset alert against Akron. And Georgia or St. Louis in the 8-9 are not beating Michigan, right? It's not happening. I don't think so, at least. So if I'm ranking the 1 seeds that I think have the best chance to get to the Final Four, Arizona and Michigan, in whatever order you want to put them in, are 1 and 2. Florida's last, because I think Florida's got issues in its backcourt. And you know that guard play is a huge thing in the tournament, obviously. And Duke is 3rd. And that sucks for Duke. And it sucks for Duke fans. And it sucks for the Duke players. And it sucks for Caleb Foster. And it sucks for Gungba. And it sucks for John Shire. It does. And I wanted to bet Duke. I've been saying for months that I think Duke's going to do what they should have done last year with one of the best teams ever to not win the title. And I thought that Duke would make up for that and win the national championship this year. And maybe they do. And look, here's the beautiful thing about this, right? We can all reserve the right to change our minds as the tournament goes on. So let's say Duke crushes Siena in the first round, right? And Duke's getting ready to play Ohio State or TCU, and Gungba comes back. Oh, okay. Like, yeah. Like, I'm going to have a different opinion about Duke. I am. But as it stands right now, with the information that we've been presented with, right? This is what we're working with right now. We don't know how healthy Gungba is. We think Caleb Foster's done for the season. Behind Florida, Duke is the 1 seed that I think has the best chance of being upset. And if you agree with me, and I don't know how you don't, if you agree with me, who do you like in the East to make the Final Four? Because I guarantee you this. The people that are in your big office pool, unless you're in like a really sharp pool, and I think most pools are not, which is fine, right? I was filling out pools when I was 7, 8 years old. I knew what I'm grinding Big Ten basketball, picking Indiana and Calbert Cheney in 1993. I had no idea. Most pools are like that, and that's cool. It's totally fine, right? They're going to take Duke, right? And if not Duke, who are they going to take? They're going to take UConn. Okay. UConn lost to Marquette in the regular season finale. UConn got blown out by St. John's in the Big East championship game. Just like we talked about in the South region, potential opportunity for you to kind of get some distance in between you and the people in your pool. I think you also have that potentially in the East region if you want to be cavalier enough to go away from Duke. And look, and if you're a better and people way smarter and way better bettors than me, and I'll shout out again my old co-host on You Better You Bet, Ken Barkley, who has an amazing betting guide, which I read for the NCAA tournament on his Twitter account at Lockie Lockerson. People way smarter than me think this as well, as it concerns the betting market and Duke. Not that Duke can't or won't win, but that Duke has injury questions coming into the tournament. You can be mad about that if you want, in the same way you can be mad that grass is green. It's a fact, and it's our job as fans, if you're filling out a bracket, if you're placing bets, if you want to be smart when you're talking about sports with your friends, to deal with the facts that you have to work with. And that's just the way it is. 310-840-4910, youtube.com/@the-Kostos. Oh, man. I got to tell you, I was fired up yesterday because we got a series of NFL mock drafts from reputable insiders. And a number of them had the same thing happening in the top 10. And it's not Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders. I'm going to tell you what it is on the other side and why the team in question could, not will, but could be this year's New England Patriots. That's coming up next to wrap up hour number 2 on a Wednesday. You Better You Bet, Westwood One Sports with Nick Kostos, presented by BetMGM.
Love. Jeremiah Love with a spin. Here he goes. Jeremiah Love.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Joe Tessitore with the call last season on ESPN. We'll talk a little NFL draft and what was very noteworthy yesterday from the notable mock drafters and draft analysts nationwide. We'll do that in just a second. But we've got to tell you about our show sponsor, BetMGM, because the Cavender twins are facing off, literally, very soon. This week. The Cavender twins are facing off in the Court of Legends game, and you, the listener, you, the viewer, you can enter BetMGM's Pick a Twin to Win free-to-play game for a chance to win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Opt into the Pick a Twin to Win free play game. Select which Cavender twin you think will win the Court of Legends one-on-one basketball game, which will be hosted at the Bank at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, Nevada. If the twin you select wins the game, you'll win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Kenny and Tyler are handicapping this feverishly right now to try and determine which Cavender twin is most likely to win. We will reveal their work at the end of the show. So yesterday, we saw mock drafts, new NFL mock drafts, and the NFL draft is coming up 5 weeks from now. It's on the way. Help, the draft is on the way, dear. Shout out to the late, great Robin Williams, says Mrs. Doubtfire. Yesterday, we got fresh mock drafts from Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Media, who's going to join us coming up in the next couple of weeks on the show, Mel Kiper from ESPN, and notable friend of the show, Connor Rogers from NBC Sports. Now, all of them have Fernando Mendoza going first overall to the Raiders. We know that is going to happen. That is what the Latin would refer to as there are no Latins. They're Latin Americans. People don't speak Latin anymore. Fait accompli is Latin, right? Am I embarrassing myself right now, guys? Can we look that up? Anyway, it's a given. It's a lock. Fernando Mendoza is going first overall to the Raiders. So everybody's got that. The only other thing that they had in common and in the top 10, that all three of these prominent mock drafters, Connor Rogers, Dan Jeremiah, Mel Kiper Jr., it's French. So I'm a dope. As the French would say, I am les incompetents. The only top 10 match that they have outside of Mendoza is Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love going fourth overall to the Tennessee Titans. Now remember what I said on Monday, that I am hearing here in New York that the Giants are into Jeremiah Love if he's there at 5. We just saw the Saints sign newly named Travis Achan. He wants to go by, that's the real pronunciation of his name. God bless him. Travis Achan. The Chiefs just signed Kenneth Walker. Those two teams pick at the end of the top 10. The thought is that Jeremiah Love won't be available at the end of the top 10. And when all the mock drafters, and they're calling them mock drafters kind of they're great draft analysts, right? When they all say something, it doesn't mean it's a lock to happen, in the way that Mendoza's to the Raiders is a lock to happen, but it should raise your antenna a little bit. Whoa, they all think this, that Love's going to Tennessee. Here's the exercise for everyone. Here's what I want everybody to think about as it concerns the AFC South, right? So Cam Ward's entering year 2. Let's say it's possible, right, that Cam Ward takes a big step forward. Maybe he's not second in MVP voting the way Drake May was in year 2, but Cam Ward, how could he not take a step forward? The team is light years better now than it was a couple weeks ago. I think Wan'Dale Robinson might not be a great, maybe they overpaid for him. Good wide receiver, good receiver. They have a whole new secondary, good new members of the defensive line, a new coaching staff that is way better than it was last year with Robert Saleh and Brian Dable. Can't be worse than it was last year, right? Now consider the rest of the division. Out of all the teams that made the playoffs last year, Buffalo, Denver, New England, the Chargers, the Texans, let's leave the Steelers out of it. The only team that got worse, definitely, no question about it, is the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are worse today than they were a couple weeks ago. Fact. Doesn't mean that they're not going to win a million games. They are not as good. They've lost players. They are not as good now as they were a few weeks ago. Daniel Jones is coming off a torn Achilles. The Colts struck out on Trey Hendrickson. What if CJ Stroud stinks this year for the Texans? Like, that's a possibility. Now imagine it. Well, we can think that the Titans should not draft a running back in the top 10. And I think that that's actually true. I would hate it from a team building perspective. But if you squint, you really think about it, can you see it for the Titans with the remade defense, better coaching staff, Cam Ward year 2, better receiving core, and Jeremiah Love being a surprise team this year in the AFC and a factor in the AFC South? If and when the Titans take Jeremiah Love, I will hate the pick again. I will hate it from a team building perspective, while also acknowledging that there could be legitimate excitement this year around the Tennessee Titans. And with that, as we always do at the end of hour number 2 here on You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports, let's discuss the game. What should we call it? I think it's going to be the biggest game of the night in the world of sports. Kenny, how do we refer to that here on the show?
Game of the night.
I have an idea for a bit. The idea for the bit is I just call it the game of the night, and then everyone cracks their mic on the show crew and says game of the night one after another. That's my idea for the bit. So tonight's game of the night is in the first 4 in the NCAA tournament, where we will have Miami of Ohio playing what is basically a home game for them against SMU. The Mustangs are 7.5-point favorites. The total in the game is 162.5. That total's been bet down over the course, literally, of this morning. Miami of Ohio took its first loss of the season last week in the MAC tournament to UMass, not even to Akron, and were the last team in, like 68 of 68 into the field. And everybody hates Miami, Ohio. And everyone's done talking about Miami, Ohio. And all the sharps are on SMU. Joey Kanish on our show Monday, Pro Sports Better, saying that the public, the morons, the squares, will be on Miami, Ohio. Well, as Huey Lewis famously said, it's hip to be square. Home game for Miami. Travis Steele only lost 1 game this season. Forget about the points. I'll take them. But I'm backing that son of a bitch up. Give me Miami, Ohio on the money line. Oh, yeah. To beat SMU tonight in the game of the night in sports. Power Hour, final hour coming up next. All our bets for tonight. Joe Fortenbaugh, ESPN sports betting analyst on the NCAA tournament. But we will kick things off. John Fanta, NBC Sports, on the Big Dance. Westwood One Sports, presented by BetMGM.
Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew. Presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Final hour. Power hour. You better you bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos, our amazing crew, and you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. John Fanta from NBC Sports going to join us in just a moment, breaking down the NCAA tournament. Our friend Joe Fortenbaugh from ESPN, about 20 minutes from now. Look forward to welcoming Joe Fortenbaugh into the show, talking the NCAA tournament as well. And speaking of the NCAA tournament, gave you a couple thoughts after having yesterday off on the show. A couple thoughts that differ from what I said on Monday. The first of those, I may be sleeping on Illinois. And maybe I was a little too dismissive of the Illini's chances to make the Final Four when we talked about, when we talked about the bracket on Monday. And the other big takeaway and big kind of revelation I had thinking about the NCAA tournament last night, is Duke going to get picked off before the Final Four? Not because Duke isn't the best team. I've been saying for months I think Duke's going to win the title. But we have to deal in facts. Duke has some big-time injury concerns right now to point guard Caleb Foster. We may not see him for the entire tournament. And we don't know if we're going to see big man Patrick Gungba this weekend. Is he going to be back next week? We have no idea. We can only deal with the information that we have right now. So I haven't finalized my bracket, finalized my bets yet. Looking forward to doing that tonight into tomorrow. And joining us right now to help us work towards that goal, I think what's happened here. John, are you okay if I pull the curtain back a little bit and what I think has happened here, like logistically for you over the last little bit? Is that okay? As John Fanta joins us from NBC Sports. Welcome to the show, my friend. So John, great to have you on the show. By the way, how much weight have you lost? Can we get John on video here for people to look at? You've lost a bunch of weight, right? Like, you look good.
Well, thank you. No, I dropped 40 pounds in season. Just changed up the approach. You know, I was writing quite a bit at my previous place, Fox, which those people were great to work for and all that. And, you know, I joined NBC and the focus has been TV, and it's been a joy to be there. But with that, Nick, has come, you know, a step back from the writing. And when you're writing, you are up at very late hours of the night, and it just wasn't, it wasn't sustainable combined with calling TV and doing that. I immensely respect people who do. I've formed great friendships with a lot of writers. I think it's helped me call games, to be frank with you, but also it's allowed me to change up the schedule. And you know, when you're focused on when you are at home and you focus on being a dad, it prevents me from going to another pretzel or two. So yes, I am down 40, and we're going to keep going.
I'll tell you what, man, just on that, because my daughter's a little older than your son. Like, once he starts like chowing down on mac and cheese and chicken nuggets and stuff, I'm pretty disciplined. It's tough not to eat the leftover mac and cheese or the leftover chicken nuggets or the leftover French fries. So just get prepared for that. And you're in your car right now for people that are watching on video. Like, and we didn't know if you were going to be on video or not. Did you? I feel like you purposefully went to the car so you could do this on video with us, which makes you, my friend, an absolute legend. I have this correct, I'm guessing.
Anything for you. My son is napping right now. He is 10 months old. You know, everyone's always like, "Where are you heading? What are you up to?" So I'm going to take everything in this first weekend remotely at the NCAA tournament. I've gone to the sites and stuff, and I'm taking this in remotely because, Nick, when you're at one site, you can't see everything that's happening. You could say that you are, but there's just no way that you can. And I could spend a little bit of time with the family because, as you well know, you watch all the games, so you know. Like, it's funny because a lot of the ESPN, Fox, and NBC people that have been working college games, the last like 3 weeks leading up to the tournament is our insanely busy stretch. So I'm just getting off of like a 15-day and 18-day swing heading into the tournament. Not that we all wouldn't love to call NCAA tournament games. I'm not saying that, but I'm back home. So my son is napping. Don't worry, America. He is not like alone in the house. My wife is inside the house, but I am not going to. I love you, Nick. So I stepped out to the vehicle to do it. But I'm not waking up my 10-month-old because we're talking about the NCAA tournament. I think that would lead me to get some papers filed directly at me.
I forget about the papers, man. More like the chain reaction that sets off when your kid doesn't get sleep is worse than whatever the papers are going to. I totally understand.
Correct.
And thank you very much. So let's start, man, this is the best time of year. Let's start breaking down the NCAA tournament. And I actually want to start with Duke. And, I think, you and I have had a couple conversations over the course of the season, and I know you're obviously high on Duke. I'm high on Duke. I felt like if you had asked me a month ago who wins the title, no question for me, the answer is Duke. But we have to deal with the information we have now, and they're not fully healthy. So with that being said, right, Foster out, I think that's a little more clear that he's going to miss probably the whole tournament. How do you feel about Duke in a really tough region coming out and getting to the Final Four?
Yeah, I do feel like it's complicated. And even though I have them coming out of that region, I'm not so sure. Now, do they cruise to the second weekend? I would imagine so. I don't trust. Look, I think TCU is going to beat Ohio State. That's. I think Ohio State's a slight favorite there. But people are underestimating Jamie Dixon as a coach and David Punch as a player. And the Horned Frogs, they don't get a bunch of national attention because they are TCU. But I'm here to tell you, I know Bruce Thornton. I'm so glad he's playing the NCAA tournament. But I think TCU could get past him. Regardless, Duke's draw to the second weekend is relatively easy. Here's the thing. You're asking yourself the question. This question of them getting picked off is also a little bit dependent on how much faith do you have in Kansas or St. John's? And Nick, that's such a fascinating potential game because we don't know what to expect from those teams. We've seen different versions of those teams all season. Kansas, how much will Darren Peterson play? Could he exit at halftime? Yeah, he could.
Right.
When they play their best, are they good enough to get to Indianapolis? Of course they are. St. John's, they've won 19 of 20. It wasn't a weaker Big East, but they have won 19 of 20. Zuby Ejiofor is playing like an All-American right now. Whether he is or not, he is playing like an All-American. But can they get enough perimeter shot making? All right, so you look at that region and you say, well, Dan Hurley's in that region. Uh-oh. Connecticut's at their best when they're in the NCAA tournament. Watch out. UConn could pick off Duke in a regional final. No reason why they can't. Wait a minute. Tom Izzo's in that region? They have Jeremy Fears. Duke's point guard is missing. And they have Jeremy Fears. Oh, and they have multiple big men. So Patrick Gomba better be healthy and playing, because if he's not playing, Michigan State's going to win the battle on the boards. And if Jordan Scott hits any threes, it's Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo climbed the mountain against Krzyzewski when nobody had him winning, and they beat Zion, RJ, and Reddish in Washington, D.C. Oh, and this elite game is also in Washington, D.C. So, yet, if Duke makes the Final Four, they're going to have to earn it. I thought they got the toughest draw. I think it will show. And, I am concerned. But here's the thing, Nick. I've covered Cameron Boozer since he was in high school and at a variety of events. Every time I've covered Cameron Boozer in an event, it has ended with him hoisting the trophy. So I am not going against that young man. And I think that you're going to see Sarr and Hemenya, and Evans is so good. I think you'll see them be able to drive that car to Indy. I still trust them enough, but your point is well taken.
So we do have a piece of breaking news here, John, from like your old friends. And I know you're still friends with them now at the Field of 68. Louisville's Mikael Brown not expected to play this week for Louisville. So against South Florida and then potentially against Michigan State or I guess North Dakota State in the second. So I wanted to make sure I got that news into the show. Mikael Brown not expected to. You're shaking your head. Like big time upset alert for them against the Bulls, right? South Florida kind of feels a little underrated coming into this tournament.
I don't even think it's going to be an upset. I think South Florida's going to win this game, and I think that they're capable of making the second weekend. Look, Wes Enos and Isaiah Nelson, they are a really dynamic duo. This team plays one of the best tempos in the country. Ryan Conwell will be so paramount for Louisville, but I don't think that Louisville when I look at USF, I think to myself, all right, will a team be able to slow down the game and just attack USF's defense on the glass and bully them? That's not Louisville, Nick. It's not who they are. Without Brown, they fail to be there. Without Brown, they're more like an 8-9 seed. They're not a 6 seed. So USF should be an 8 or 9. They're good enough to be. They can win this game, and they could win this game by 10. I'm not kidding you. I think that the Bulls are going to win this game. And here's a little spicy one for you. They're not going to be the only 11 seed to win a first-round game.
All right, so that begs the obvious follow-up question, right? VCU against North Carolina with no Caleb Wilson. The winner of tonight's game, Miami, Ohio of SMU against Rick Barnes in Tennessee, and then Texas against BYU. I'll tell you this. I think I like North Carolina. I wouldn't be shocked if North Carolina lost. I think Texas is going to beat BYU. Which 11 seed do you like, John, other than South Florida against Louisville?
Two more. I like Texas to knock off BYU. I think that, it's a long trip from Dayton to Portland, but I don't love the psyche of BYU right now. It's all about, are you playing your best? The injury to Saunders has thrown them off. And here's the thing about Sean Miller. Sean Miller knows how to make it a football game. What I mean by that is he knows how to sort of break the game down into the half court and say, all right, Tremont Mark, Dalen Swain, and then you watched last night, like their bigs fought, man. They had two guys with double-figure rebounds. I know how to pronounce most names. They're one big man. I have trouble pronouncing his name. You all know who I'm talking about. But man, they are a team that just they grind, and they grinded in the SEC. And not to say BYU didn't. BYU's got to get Texas going like this. They got to make it high volume, high shot, and then DeBonce's got to be the best guy on the floor. But I do think that Texas can win that game. I got VCU. I know I might be going out on a limb, but I do like VCU because I think VCU, Terrence Hill does a lot of different things for that team, and Jadrian Tracy is a guard who initiates quite well, and they're pretty solid defensively. I think it could be Phil Martelli Jr.'s time. And I kind of got this hunch that the Rams are not done yet. The Atlantic 10 tournament champion has notoriously had success in the first round. Recently, Duquesne beat BYU when Mark Pope was at BYU. Keith Dam brought his final act. Remember when Richmond shocked Iowa in Buffalo a few years back? The A10 tournament champion is a good idea in the first round of the tournament, history says.
You bet on this Wednesday. Westwood One Sports, John Fanta, NBC Sports. He looks great. Sounds great, too, is our guest on social media at John_Fanta. This is a simple one for you. Who do you have winning the South region, which is the Florida region, obviously, with Houston as the 2 and Illinois the 3, and why?
Yeah. Well, I want the Houston-Illinois game, like, selfishly.
We're going to get that, right? Like, we're going to get that, right?
Yeah, I want Florida Vandy and I want Houston, Illinois. I want a conference game there. I want Florida Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt could beat Florida. When you're a league opponent, it's different, Nick. If that's a league game, it's different than a tournament game. Because the two teams, forget the scouting. That's a show up and play game. Like, show up and play. Stop running. If advice to Todd Golden and Coach Byington, you're going to run through your 2 hours of video and 2 hours in the hotel ballroom with the tape. Let the players go out and bowl.
They played last week, right? That's the great thing about this. They just played, and Vandy crushed them.
I've been watching, exactly. If I were Florida, I'd be like, whatever we did to prepare for that game, throw it out the window.
Do something different.
Now, by the same token, if we get Illinois-Houston, which I think we will, the dynamic of the matchup is totally contrasting. It's kind of unbelievable. Like, Illinois is all offense. They're so skilled. Wagler can beat a great defense, and he has. And then the Ivisic brothers get on the glass, so them versus JoJo Tugler and Chris Sinak would be a lot of fun. Mirkovic is so talented. Stoya. To beat Houston, what do you need? You need people that can individually make a difference in the game and make shots. And Illinois has like 3 of them. But on the other side is Kingston Flemings and Emmanuel Sharp and Milo Shuzan. And when does Houston have a lot of success? Against teams that struggle at times to do what? To guard and to fulfill the stop and get the defensive rebound. So that could be an epic like 84-82 game. I have Houston coming out of the South because I think that team, our view on them is a little skewed because they were in an absolutely amazing Big 12. They lost a couple of games. They're better because of it. And I think that the Cougars will package a run together.
My last question on the, because I think the South region, I think the South and the East are the 2 most interesting regions. We'll do a little on the West, we'll do a little on the Midwest, but I think these are the most interesting. Like, Florida will be favored if they play Vandy, so I can't tell you it's like a shock if Florida wins that game. But I'll tell you what,
no,
as it stands right now, John. First off, like, I think I might pick Vandy to win that game against Florida. I will take either Illinois or Houston to beat Florida if they play. If Illinois gets past Houston and it's Illinois, Florida in the Elite Eight. Obviously, like, we're not there. Things can happen. There can be injuries. Assuming everything's static, you're nodding. You'll like Illinois over Florida if that's the matchup in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, at that point I would. At the Illinois, if we call all the rosters together here, looking out in the neighborhood right now, and I said, all right, everybody, like old school park games. All right, every team come on up. Like, let's judge the teams, okay? Like you're playing recess football. And you had to pick. All right, I typically was not the top pick in the draft. I typically was. Actually, you know what I did, Nick? Back in grade school, I would ask if I could coach the team so that I wasn't a part of the draft. I got to draft the team.
I was the broadcaster. I was the broadcaster. I would call the game.
Know your strengths. Know your strengths. So the thing is, if we said, all right, let's look at all these teams on paper. On paper, Illinois got as much talent as anybody. You'd be like, Illinois could be the best team in this tournament offensively. They're the most skilled offensive team in this tournament. Like, tell me, am I wrong?
I don't think so. Like, they're the team that I would say that if they could score 100 points in any game against any opponent and you wouldn't blink an eye.
Not an eye. And like, Michigan has flaws offensively. They do. Arizona does. They got flaws offensively. They struggle to make threes. And I think it's going to do them in. I think Arizona's going to get upset by Arkansas in this tournament. Oh, there's a little bit of that. Yeah. The other thing I think is this. Everybody right now, what are we in, Nick? We're in a what have you done for me lately world, okay? So everybody's filling out their brackets, and they think they've got it all figured out. Like myself, we all think we got it all figured out. The sports gods have always told us throughout all of time, no matter the sport, just when you think you've got it all figured out, you certainly do not. And so I believe that everyone's like, no, the 13 will never do it again. It'll just never happen. It's NIL, it's resources. Something's going to happen in this thing on Thursday or Friday that makes you say, who had that on the bingo card? I just think there's too many of us that are like, yeah, it's not going to happen. It doesn't. The Cinderella's carriage, she might show up, but it's probably not going to. It's going to show up, and it's going to be in the spot that people didn't see it coming.
I love that, like the Roddy Piper line, just when you think you've got all the answers, I'm changing the questions. I absolutely love that. And like, look, it happens across every sport. Forget about sports. Like, that's like a life thing. You think you've got it figured out and all the questions change. So
it's basketball.
Absolutely.
It's basketball.
A little bit of lightning round to close here. Have a couple minutes. And I know, like, we did way more on the left side of the bracket. I find it more interesting than the right side. But you know what? You like Arkansas to upset Arizona in the Sweet 16. Presumably Darius Acuff has a huge game if that happens. 30 seconds. Do you have Arkansas going to Indianapolis out of the West region, Purdue, or somebody else out of the West?
Woo pig suey. John Calipari is in the Final Four. And Nick, how much juice would that provide to the Final Four if Coach Cal is walking into Lucas Oil Stadium 2 wins shy of a title at Arkansas? 2 years removed from making as wild a move as we have seen, right? Like, it was wild, the coaching movements we have seen in college basketball. I was at an Italian restaurant parking lot in Arizona, on the story and thinking to myself, what in the world is happening right now? But this team is experienced. Billy Richmond, Brazil, Wagner, and then Acuff at the forefront. It's like he has ushered in this new wave for Arkansas where they're just so tough to stop. If Acuff gets downhill, forget it. He could have a 40-point game in this tournament, and I wouldn't bat an eye. And I think there will be a couple of 40-point games in this tournament because I just think scoring is up in college hoops, and the freshman class is ridiculously good. So I do have Arkansas. Coming out of the West, I think they meet Purdue in the regional final, and Acuff outlasts Braden Smith.
So you've got Duke, Houston, Arkansas. And the only thing that would give that more juice, by the way, if Arkansas makes it, part of me, not a strong enough part that I'll do it. Part of me wants to take Kentucky just because of the talent. Wow. I'm not going to do it, but part of me wants to do it. If we got Kentucky versus Arkansas, that would be great. Your final four teams, this is the Midwest, is who? And then who do you have cutting down the nets in about a minute?
Man, I wanted to pick Iowa State. I really did. And I don't think there's any time like the present. If I were Iowa State and I saw that draw, I'd say, let's go. We got Taman Lipsey, Milan Momcilovic, Joshua Jefferson, and maybe the most underrated player in the country in Killian Torrey. Like, now is the time, Iowa State. You've been building for this. But I am not letting one conference championship game and a couple of close calls change my thinking on the Michigan Wolverines. They're getting to this thing. They've been as good as anybody. If you said they're the best team in the sport, I still agree with you. Do I think they've gotten a little bored at times? I do. And guess what? They're going to unleash here. This team is I'm not worried about their chemistry, and I'm not worried about their coach. And Yaxel Lendeborg is a stud, and he's a winner. The Wolverines are going to be there in Indy. They're going to be there.
Who do you like to win it all?
I'm still going with Duke. I think that there's a world where maybe an Arkansas keeps the magic going and makes the championship game. But I think that Duke wins their first title in over a decade. And it begins a new Shire wave, if you will. I think it's going to be good for people can hate on Duke all they want. Shire could be the coach there, as you and I discussed, for 30 years. But it's time. Like, it's coming. He's going to get a national championship, and I think this team gets healthy enough. I think we see Gongba. I don't know if we see Foster, but Nick, Caden Boozer's not going to be looking over his shoulder. And Caden Boozer with his brother, he's solid. He doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. He just has to play. He's just got to initiate things. He's just got to play his role. Duke cuts down the nets.
I tell you, I needed it. I kind of needed it to happen last year. Still surprised it didn't. And that choke job against Houston Saturday night at the Final Four. We'll see if it happens this year. John, we love you, man. You're the best. Appreciate you. What do you got?
Miami University wins tonight. Team that will be sweating the most in their first round game. It's clear as day to me. We didn't bring them up. It's Nebraska. That whole state is riding on them winning a tournament game, and I think it'll be competitive. I think Troy knows that and will play loose.
I'm going to take it a step further. I think Troy's going to win.
Whoa!
Oh, yeah.
Whoa!
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Troy! The men of Troy have pulled off an opening round shocker!
That's right. Tom Osborne, Tommy Frazier, not walking through that door for Nebraska, John Fanta. Give me the fighting men of Troy against Nebraska in the 4-13 in the South region. You're the best. Amazing job covering college basketball all season long. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate you guys.
The great John Fanta, what a great guy, joining us here on You Better, You Bet. Absolutely love him. Went to his car so his son could nap to do this spot with us. He is a real mensch. All right, quick break. And on the other side, we continue the Sterling NCAA tournament breakdown here on a Wednesday. Joe Fortenbaugh, ESPN sports betting analyst, one of our absolute favorites here on Westwood One Sports.
swing it outside Johnson. 6 seconds left. Cadeau, little shake and bake, winding down. Lindeborg. Oh yeah!
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Friends of the show, Iron Eagle on the call in the Big Ten tournament last week. Michigan outlasting Wisconsin before getting drubbed by Purdue in the championship. You know, we had John Fanta on the show just now, and John is not going to be dissuaded by Michigan's Big Ten title loss to Purdue. He's got the Wolverines in the Final Four. So, too, do I. But what say ESPN sports betting analyst and ESPN host, the very handsome and well-manicured Joe Fortenbaugh? Well, good news for everybody. Joe is with us here on the show, and you, our viewers, have the pleasure of seeing Joe's handsome face on video. My friend, welcome to the show. How you doing? Happy NCAA tournament week to you and yours.
It's a lovely introduction, but I will say I'm not a fond of the booking that has taken place on this show. For me to come after Fanta, that's a no-win for me. Fanta's a legend. For me to follow that up, I got to say, very nice. But if we're talking Triple H and booking here, I do not like this position I have been put in. You basically just gave the world Rock, Hogan, and now here comes the what was the match that was after that? I don't even remember. Triple H and Jericho.
Triple H Jericho. Yeah.
Right. That's what this is. This is now Triple H Jericho because everyone just got Hogan versus The Rock.
What I was gonna go with 6 years later, I believe, which is WrestleMania 25. Michaels Taker won, and then Triple H Orton had to follow that. It was a really flat main event, but no, that's Rock Hogan. This is like Austin Angle in the main event. No, this is going from great to great. Yeah, this is. I'm very excited for this. And I love because we get to hit this with a different angle with you. We can talk about it from the sports betting perspective, and also just get your takes as well. You do an awesome job hosting ESPN content in addition to being the sports betting analyst for ESPN. So maybe we can hit this through the betting lens, right? And I started the show today, Joe, when I was talking about the NCAA tournament, and I think it's interesting, right, that since Selection Sunday, since the show ended and the odds went up, that we have really seen there be a shift in the top four, right, with the 4-1 seeds with Duke, Florida, Arizona, and Michigan, where it's the top three. Whether you, and you meaning the royal you, disagree with this or not, the fact is the fact. This is what the betting market says. It's Duke, Arizona, Michigan, draw a line, Florida. So there is a difference now, the betting market says, between those three teams and the Florida Gators. Do you see it that way, Joe Fortenbaugh? And if so, is there a potential betting opportunity that you like coming out of the South region?
A little bit, yeah, because I think what's happening here, and I'm not going to be the first one to say this, but the way NIL has transferred the game with the haves, these top teams, these big programs like Arizona, being able to spend exorbitant amounts of money to attract the top talent, and the mid-majors not being able to do so, the margin between those two has widened. On top of that, if a mid-major produces a good team or a good player, that kid's gone the next year because in Arizona or North Carolina or Duke is going to buy that kid. So last year we see 4 number ones, which used to be rare. Now all of a sudden we're sitting here saying, I'm not so sure. Let me throw this right back to you, and then I'll give you a pick a little bit further down the board in the Florida bracket. What would you do over-under on the total sum of seeds to make the Final Four? The prop is at 8.5. Think about that. If a 5 seed makes it, that blows the whole thing up in terms of an under, unless it's 3 other 1 seeds. Would you go under 8.5 for the total sum of seeds to make the Final Four?
Definitely over 8.5. Absolutely.
You go over.
I would go over 8.5
so
because
who do you not trust?
Well, let me think. Well, actually, let me think here. I'm doing some fuzzy math here.
Classic Kostos comes out shooting from the hip, hasn't thought it through. Now all of a sudden there's panic setting in.
So to use a wrestling analogy, I'm the Ultimate Warrior. I come out all fired up, do my 3 moves, and I'm blown up 30 seconds in, and I'm sucking wind. So let me really think about this.
Ropes.
So I'll say this: Arizona. I think the right side of the bracket's going to be boring. I think it's going to be Arizona and Michigan. I think we get the 2-1 seeds on the right side. Now, if you told me, and you can't, no one can, that Duke's going to at least get Gungba back. We don't know if that's the case. If he came back, I would like Duke. I think Duke could absolutely lose early in this tournament, given they're not 100% healthy. And I don't think it's going to be the 1 seed in the South region. So I guess, Arizona, Michigan, that would be 2. I think it could be, let's say it's Illinois. That gets us to 5. Okay. And then you get non-Duke. I would, yeah, it's a great number. Yeah, let's be cavalier. Let's take the over. I think Duke is ripe for an early upset here, given the injury situation.
Okay, that's interesting. Now back to your original question in the Florida region. I was wrestling with this with Sean Farnham in the halls. This is the beauty of working at ESPN. You can just treat everyone as your own personal free consultation for gambling. And I was drilling him about Florida, and he was sitting there saying, look, he still very much likes Florida. Like this idea they lose to Vanderbilt, so now recency bias, like we all check out and we stop thinking about Florida and we see them as vulnerable. They were red hot down the stretch. Like if that one loss that they had over the final how many weeks of the season, if that happens 2 weeks ago, we're all in love with Florida. But now we don't like them because we saw that against Vanderbilt. So maybe that creates opportunity. Enter Vanderbilt, who checks so many boxes for me. If you were to stretch your legs out in one of these regions, them at 11-1. You need excellent guard play this time of year. They can knock down the three. They can hit their free throws. That's important. Like Florida is an awful free throw shooting team. They were an awful 3-point shooting team. That's what worries me about them. Vandy's got that. They were 31st in defensive efficiency. They've beaten Florida, Tennessee twice, Kentucky, Alabama, VCU, St. Mary's. If I was going to stretch my legs a little bit, Vandy at 11-1 to win their region, that's the place I would look.
Oh, I love it. Vandy, the 5 seed in that region, and obviously like thumped Florida not 2 months ago, not 2 weeks ago, last week in the SEC tournament. So we might get that matchup again in the Sweet 16. Do you share my thought on Duke? Not that they're not the best team when fully healthy. I think they are the best team when healthy, but they're not fully healthy. Where are you at on the Duke Blue Devils, the number 1 overall seed, the 1 seed in the East region?
So, I mean, they were trucking everybody, and then we get new information in the form of these injuries, and then we see him stumbling a little bit. You see some problems. I was talking to again, free consultation, Seth Greenberg. I was all over him about this. Seth and I play golf at the same club, as I tout myself a little bit. But
that was a sweet little humble brag. Was that a humble brag or just an actual brag if we're keeping score?
That was just an obnoxious, whip it out, slam it on the table type of brag. Good. If I'm even allowed to say such a thing, if I can't, I apologize.
Absolutely.
But so we play golf right down the street. We live near each other, so I've gotten to know him a little bit. So we text back and forth. And I run. He doesn't follow. He doesn't follow it from a gambling perspective. But we've talked enough over the years, and he's appeared on the show that he started to learn it. And I just run thoughts by him. And it was the same thing with injuries to the guard play of Duke. They don't have the depth there. It creates a problem, especially if you want to pressure him. He was talking about this going into the Florida State game, and Florida State was able to get after him. So now we have to ask ourselves, is this indicative of the way it's going to go? Or are we just looking at one little small thing they find a way to overcome, and we don't want to get caught misreading them? I haven't cut them out of the Final Four yet. I do think there's still plenty of talent for them to get to the Final Four. But in terms of the championship run, that's where I'm kind of out on them. The other thing to keep in mind is, dominant as you are in this sport, it's not a 7-game series where you can bounce back from a bad start in game 1 or maybe even an 0-2 hole. You got 40 minutes. If the other team just goes white hot, it's over. That's why sometimes I look at teams like Duke and they just have these tremendous prices on them. And I think you need so much to go your way. And one of those things is that your opponent doesn't play the game of their life, which happens this time of year.
If it's not Duke in the East region, Joe, who do you like? And price can factor into this. Who would you like and why in the East region here, which is UConn, St. John's, Kansas, Michigan State, UCLA?
The two I keep going, UCLA is very interesting depending on their health, but we don't have all the answers to that. So I'm in a holding pattern on UCLA. UConn's always intriguing because on one hand, it's Hurley. His ATS record in the tournament is phenomenal. Last year, people forget, they had Florida. Florida wins the whole thing. UConn had them. UConn was ready to make another run, and they ended up blowing that game. So I'm never going to discount Hurley. Kansas is the one I keep going back to. The Big 12 was absolutely filthy this year. Battle-tested week in and week out. Arizona, Houston, Kansas, BYU to an extent, Iowa State, Texas Tech before the Toppin injury. The teams coming out of the Big 12 have been absolutely battle-tested. So I keep looking at Peterson and Kansas thinking it wouldn't shock me if the guy who's supposed to go number 1 overall leads his team on a little bit of a run here.
Yeah, I think the East region is so. I would like St. John's if it's St. John's, Kansas, but you could certainly make an upside case for Darren Peterson and Kansas. You bet on this Wednesday. Westwood One Sports. Joe Fortenbaugh from ESPN, sports betting analyst and host with us on the show. I gotta tell you, his skin looks great.
Thank you. It's a tremendous moisturizing program. My wife got me on it a few years ago because she's like, you're looking old. And your boy used to get after it back in the day. I used to smoke a heater now and then. I didn't take very good care of myself. So now I'm trying to play catch up late. So there's a truth serum that goes on early, a vitamin C serum. Then there's what might be a little bit of like a bronzer. Then there's a moisturizer. Then there's eye cream. Then there's sunscreen. 5 layers every day to start. And then there's a whole routine in the evening as well. But I wouldn't want to bore the audience with that. So we'll just give them the morning routine.
Can I give you just, and I would say this to the audience, like, are you familiar? We'll get back to Oops in a second. Are you familiar with marula oil?
I am not. No, please do tell.
So Trader Joe's, it's like $7 marula oil. And if you take your moisturizer and you put like a thing or two of marula oil in the moisturizer, and this does not have to be as simple as this, rub it together, put it, look into it. Marula oil, it's like $8 from Trader Joe's. It will change your life. It will change your skincare. It'll make your skin look even better than it does right now. Go ahead.
When you say something like $7, $8, I'm already sold because I have wasted money on so many bad bets in my career. $7, $8 doesn't even register as a thing. That might as well be free with the way I so cavalierly throw money away on some of these bets. So yes, I will pick up all of it. I will go to the store and buy all of the marula oil today. Thank you, my friend.
I like how you say you wasting your money on bets. I'm thinking like I've wasted my money on hair products and skincare, so that I don't really love. So and obviously firmly in addition to the bets as well. All right, West Region, Arizona's the one here. Anything from a betting perspective stand out to you here? Purdue the 2, Gonzaga the 3, Darius Acuff and Arkansas the 4.
I think you should get. Purdue catches my eye. They open 5-1. I think they're like plus 380 now to win the region. That's the one that keeps catching my eye. Mostly because Arizona's the 1, but their half of the region is much more challenging. I think Purdue should basically cakewalk their way to the Elite 8, and then they got the dance with Arizona, and you're sitting there holding a ticket that's somewhere close to 4-1. I like it. This is the preseason number 1. They're finding their stride late in the season. Number 1 offense, according to Ken Pom. There's a lot to like there. I still think overall Arizona's the better team, but given the pricing and the path, Purdue's a team I'm using not only in bets, but to win that region. But outside of that, if I'm in a smaller bracket, sometimes I've just been taking Arizona. Like it's Arizona has been outstanding this year. So while I do have some bets, if I'm in like the small family type pools, that's where I'm leaning more into Arizona.
And then the Midwest, for me, it's just Michigan. I can't get away from Michigan here. How do you feel about the Midwest region? Michigan the 1, Iowa State the 2, Virginia the 3, and who is the 4 seed here that I can't see? Alabama the 4 with their second best player, like Sir Smoke-A-Lot from Half Baked.
I want to talk to Samson. Fly me to the moon with them $10 grams.
Yes, you know what I want.
There are so many people out there that heard that right now that have no idea what's happening, and some that absolutely love it. There's no middle ground. I'm terrified of this region because everybody likes Michigan. Literally everybody says the same thing. It's Michigan. Let's move on to the next bracket. And it might be that easy. It really might be. Or it's that one quadrant where, I don't know if you still do this, but I still very much am highlighter pen. X's when I lose, highlighter when I win. And there's always the one region that's just covered in X's because it's a disaster. This is the one that feels way too easy. I'm using Michigan. Don't get me wrong. I'm just uneasy with how confident all of us are.
You can give us, Joe, this can be a first round bet for a game. This could be like an exacta final, a team you think's going to make a run at price that you like. Give us something that we have not yet discussed, a bet that Joe Fortenbaugh loves coming up for the NCAA tournament.
I'm going to shotgun a few. I'm going to give you some round wonders because Joe Fortenbaugh is not just going to give out one. South Florida plus 5.5 over Louisville. Northern Iowa plus 9.5 over St. John's. VCU plus 2.5 over North Carolina. Iowa minus 2.5 over Clemson. There's 4 right there, right out of the chute. Boom, enjoy yourself, do what you want with them. Also like Hawaii plus 15.5 against Arkansas. Now that we've done some sides, I told you about Vandy. To make the Sweet 16, it's plus 105. I like that because if we hit there, we're basically free rolling then with the Final Four bet on Vandy at 11-1. The other I throw out there, Virginia to make the Elite 8 is plus 310. That's the Michigan quadrant. I can see things getting a little dicey. Virginia's got a lot of balance with what they bring to the table. That's what I'm throwing at you as well.
Joe, You're the best, man. Unfortunately, I was going to ask because it was 316 day the other day. Austin or The Rock? We unfortunately we don't have time for this would be scintillating discussion because I would take Rocky. Great job at Joe Fortenbaugh. You sound great. More importantly, you look great. Good luck with the bets. We'll catch up with you soon.
So all that matters is our looks. Who cares what we have to say as long as we look good? Thank you very much, my friend. Best of luck to everyone out there.
I love Joe, and like people say to me like, oh, like I get my haircut once a week. You only do that because you work in media. Or I was like, no, like I've done this my whole life. Bill Zimmerman is with us, our executive producer, with the trivia question of the day. Bill, what is today's trivia question of the day?
All right, Nick. Well, a lot of people are thinking this might be chalky. A lot of people think these 1 seeds might have separated themselves. Of course, we're talking Duke, we're talking Arizona, we're talking Michigan and Florida. If that happens, it would have a very similar look of a previous Final Four. 3 of these 4 Final Four teams once made the same Final Four in a previous year. Which year was it?
I know it.
Wow, fast.
Should I type it in the chat, or is that we want Tyler and Kenny to guess? I know it. I'm going to text
let
you.
Tyler and Kenny see if they can figure it out.
I'm going to text it to you right now. So let's see. I know we have to break. Hold on. So let's see. You have your phone here. This is the year. You just tell me if I'm right, and then I won't say the answer. So I just texted it to you. Is that correct?
You nailed it.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. We'll take a quick break. Tyler and Kenny will try and answer this question on the other side, and all our bets for tonight here on a Wednesday on Westwood One Sports.
Yeah, the only thing I don't know about this question is that the 4th team, or the team that didn't make it this year, was Arizona probably, right? Am I right about that, Bill?
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Game, and you can enter BetMGM's Pick a Twin to Win free-to-play game for a chance to win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Opt into the Pick a Twin to Win free-to-play game. Select which Cavender twin you think will win the Court of Legends one-on-one basketball game hosted at the Bank at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, Nevada. If the twin you select wins the game, you'll win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. So Kenny and Tyler, because they are young, have the answer. They have no concept of what happened before they started watching. They are wrong with their guess. The question... Bill, what's the question? Give it to us verbatim. And I'll just say this. I'm not betting the NBA. I'm done betting the NBA for a couple days here. Miami, Ohio is my only bet tonight. Miami, Ohio plus 7.5 and a money line sprinkle. Those are the bets for tonight for me. Bill, what was the question again, please?
The 4 1 seeds this year, 3 of them made the same Final Four previously. What year was it?
So the answer, and our friend Mark in the chat got it right. The answer is 1994. Tyler and Kenny both said 2000, and Dan Turner as well. And I get that because Arizona and Duke played in the national championship game that year for thinking that. So I thought this when John Fanta was on because John picked Arkansas to go to the Final Four. So when he said that, I'm thinking, do you remember on Monday? I led the show talking about NCAA tournament memories, and I said the first year I ever won an NCAA tournament pool, I was 11 years old, 1994. That year, Arkansas, with Nolan Richardson and Big Nasty Corliss Williamson and Scotty Thurman, beat Duke and Grant Hill in the national championship game. So I'm immediately thinking, wow, this could be 94 again. He likes Arkansas, he likes Duke. Also in that Final Four, Lon Kruger and Florida made the Final Four that year, beating Donyell Marshall and UConn, I believe, on the way there. And Arkansas in the Elite Eight beat Michigan. And Michigan, of course, had gone to back-to-back title games with Chris Webber and company and had lost in both those title games to Duke and Carolina, respectively. So you had a final... Who was the fourth Final Four team? It's Arkansas in 94. Arkansas, Duke, Florida, and who was the fourth?
Arizona.
Arizona, of course, Arizona. Yes. So 1994, the answer to that trivia question. Great trivia question from our friend, Bill Zimmerman. Just to reiterate the bet, I'm on Miami, Ohio tonight, plus the points, and Miami of Ohio on a money line sprinkle. All right, that does it for the wonderful Sports Wednesday edition of You Better You Bet. Good news, we are back tomorrow on a tremendous NCAA tournament Thursday here with you on Westwood One Sports. We'll finalize the bracket. We'll finalize all the bets and break down all the games. Great guests to join us as well. Until then, I'm Nick Kostos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, the absolute very best of luck. Our pals Bleck and Abdallah coming up next here on Westwood One Sports.